Hey, what's going on everyone? It's Joe from Gadgetry Tech, and in today's video, I'm going to talk about a new entry to the gaming headset space, and it's from Fractal. Now, Fractal Designs is typically known for computer cases. They have other computer accessories and add-ons as well, like chairs and fans and such, but the cases is kind of what put their name on the map. So this being their first entry in the headset space, it's naturally going to garnish a lot of attention to see how they stack up against the competition. And before I get any further, I did want to disclose that Fractal sent this to me in advance for review. They didn't pay me for anything. I don't do any affiliate links. There's no monetary kickback whatsoever. If this eventually gets added to Amazon, I will do a generic Amazon affiliate link because I use that money to purchase stuff that isn't sent to me for review. But I did want to disclose that. Huge thanks to Fractal for helping get this in my hands weeks in advance prior to it being released because I could do proper testing. But again, it won't change what I say about it. Now, Fractal offers this Scape in two colors, and they call it light and dark. The light version is basically a nice gray tone, which I really liked. I think it looks beautiful, but for my desk aesthetic, I went with black because if I ended up loving the headset and I kept it on my desk for a long period of time, I wanted one that wouldn't stick out as much. And the gray could do that depending on your setup, but the black works better for me. To save you some time, in case you want to know if you should keep watching this video or not, I wanted to do a quick too long didn't watch. So the Scape is $200 regardless of color. As far as features goes, this has Bluetooth and a 2.4 gigahertz connection. They are not simultaneous. There's a switch to toggle between both. This does not work on Xbox, but it does work wirelessly on PlayStation 4 and 5. Of course, Mac and PC. It also lacks game to chat mix built in. There's no way to adjust a separate audio source. It's all or nothing. But on the positive side, what makes the Scape special in this price range is the build quality and the sound quality. So if you want to learn more and this is the right one for you or not, stay tuned, but I did want to disclose that. Okay, so the Scape uses 40mm polytheramide drivers, and you don't have to know what that means. It's basically known as PEI, and it's a higher quality alternative than what you typically see with headsets, which use something called PET. You are starting to see graphene being used on more headsets nowadays, at least on the more premium space. It doesn't guarantee it's going to sound a certain way, but the stuff found on the Scape, PEI, is typically considered a better driver material than what most headsets ship with, which is PET. Fractal states that this headset has a 40-hour battery life with RGB off and 24 hours or more with RGB on. I had no issue hitting those numbers. In fact, I usually exceeded that. I got almost 50 hours with RGB off. But I leave the RGB on for fun because it's good for dramatic effect. I did mention this briefly already, but as far as platform support goes, this does work on PC. It works with Mac, of course, and thanks to Bluetooth, it works on a variety of mobile devices and even the Nintendo Switch. The PC and PlayStation support, if you're using this on console or PC, you can still use spatialized audio. So even though it doesn't come with any special license, this is compatible with Dolby Atmos and DTS on Windows. And if you're playing this on PlayStation, you can use the enhanced headphone mode, the audio focus mode that they just came out with, which is amazing on FPS. And of course, you can use the Tempest 3D audio. So the packaging is pretty nice with the Scape. You get these Swedish design elements, of course. It's very understated, just like the headset itself, but we're gonna get a close look at that in a moment. Now, I got really excited and I started unboxing this like in the air as I'm holding it. Don't just do this and pull it open, because if you do, you can see that the way it's presented here. It's totally fine if you open this the way you should and laying it flat on the table, but if it's vertical, there's a chance the headset's gonna come out, so don't get too excited. Obviously, you can use your imagination of how this was set up. I'm not gonna focus too much on here. Manuals in here, all of your accessories, headset, cable, transmitter, you name it. As far as the included cable goes, it's a USB A to C cable, obviously C going into the dock itself, and it has a rather stiff kind of nylon jacket material to it. Cable has some robustness to it, and it is long enough where you can actually use this to connect your cable to the headset itself to charge while you're using it. Now, on that note, the headset works as a USB-C headset too, so the included cable plugs in here. If we need a longer one, just want to point out this opening isn't huge, so some aftermarket USB A to C cables may not plug in all the way. Make sure you find a really low profile one. Also included is a USB-A transmitter, of course, for the wireless connection support, and this uses the LC3 Plus codec, kind of what Odyssey does with their transmitter. So it's not really like your traditional 2.4 gigahertz radio frequency. It's using a Bluetooth protocol, but LC3 Plus has low latency and a high enough bandwidth to still sound good. Didn't have any issues there. I'll get into the sound quality later, but I just wanted to disclose how that wireless transmitter worked. As far as Bluetooth codec support goes, this uses SBC and AAC, and it's safe to assume it uses LC3 Plus on the Bluetooth side as well because of how this works, but I don't have a phone that's capable of running LC3 Plus. I could not validate that. Perhaps that'll be shown in documentation later, but I wasn't able to confirm that. Just in case you skipped over the intro portion, this does have Bluetooth built in, but it does not have simultaneous Bluetooth. There's a little switch on it to toggle modes, and in doing so, you have to choose if you're using the 2.4 transmitter or your Bluetooth connection. And there's no way to have like a hot switch support either. So if you're playing on PC and you're gaming using the dock for your connection, and then you get a phone call, it's not going to be connected to your phone unless that switch is in Bluetooth. So you won't be taking any calls in the middle of a game. Now the Scape uses something I have never seen done on a gaming headset before, and that is inductive charging. There are no pins or cables. You just place it in the plastic and textile dock, and the headset magnetically locks into place and starts to charge. You can then just lift the headset straight up to remove it for the dock, or you can tilt it towards you to first kind of break the magnetic seal and make it easier to lift off. The dock also has a super grippy footing underneath. After removing the protective film, it basically just sticks to my desk and any shiny kind of mouse pad, and I just love the stability of this. It feels super premium. This is a felt desk pad, which is not known to be grippy whatsoever, and it still has an immense amount of grip. I don't want to move it around too much because I don't want lint to accumulate over that sticky footing, but it's amazing how secure this feels. As far as the orientation of the dock goes, the microphone faces away from you. So the idea is if your dock is right in front of you, you're going to pick it up and put it straight on your head. That's why this kind of looks like it's backwards if you've been paying close attention. All you do is place it on like that and it's charging. And then if you leave it for charging for a long period of time, which from empty takes less than 3 hours to fully charge, the left ear cup will feel a little bit warm on the outside if it just recently charged. That obviously suggests that the inductive coil is on the left, and this is just here for symmetry and making it look all nice. Now, thankfully, the inside of the ear cup doesn't get warm at all, so if you immediately pick it up from charging and it feels warm and then put it on your head, you're not going to notice anything when you're actually wearing it. Now, the single cable is used to both charge and power the headset and as well as support the data connection for your wireless transmitter. You can also route the cable to exit either on the left side of the dock or the rear, which is kind of nice depending on your desk for flexibility, and Fractal allows you to remove the USB transmitter, and there's even more attention to detail here as they put a small cloth pull tab on the USB transmitter to make it easier to remove. It also feels more high-end as a result. Now, another killer feature of this, by having a removable transmitter and a separate dedicated USB cable, you can fix what a common issue is with docked stations. For one, if this is connected to your PC directly and your PC's BIOS settings puts the USB power to sleep when your PC is off, your headset's not going to charge while you're away from your desk. So there are some BIOS settings you can make to keep USB power on at all times. That's one way to circumnavigate this. There are USB docks out there, or like USB hubs, I should say, that will keep the headset powered. So even if your computer is off, the dock is providing its own power. That's one solution. The other one is because the transmitter is removable, you can plug this end of the cable into an AC to USB port charging block. Something you use to charge a phone typically. Plug that in. Now the dock has power, and then you can keep the transmitter plugged into the PC or even your PlayStation, because with PlayStation, once that goes to sleep, it stops charging as well. So I like having that versatility. Now, on the note of transmitters and connections, I do a little test called the toilet test, which covers wireless range, because let's face it, if you're using a wireless headset, you're going to roam around from time to time. The wireless performance of this is fantastic. It's not like the longest I've ever seen, but it's close. I get about 55 feet of range with this docked on my desk and the transmitter inside the dock. When I move the transmitter to the top of my desktop, which sits on top of my desk, I got an extra 3 to 5 feet. I got up to about 58 feet or so using the exact same location, which is going through a couple walls and down a long hallway. So the range is great too. So the most standout thing about the Scape is actually the build quality. It feels like a much more expensive, dare I say, $400 plus headset in hand. And that's thanks to a few things. It's not just the shape, but the choice of materials as well. There's just an amazing blend of textiles, plastic, and metal all over the headset. And the headband is plastic on top with a modestly padded textile liner on the inside, but it still feels nice enough when you're wearing it. The headband conceals the metal telescoping adjustment, which has metal on the buckle and also has metal on the yoke, which feels extremely impressive in hand, because when you do touch that little bit of metal and the shape and that attention to detail that it has, it just feels wonderful, and it feels like it's going to hold up over a long period of time. And if you're looking for even more metal, you don't have to look far, because the volume knob, yes, there's a volume knob on a headset, is also made of metal. This feels extremely premium. There's a nice amount of smooth, buttery resistance to it. No noise or rattles, although it is a little bit stiffer than I'd prefer from when I'm actually gaming. If I wanted to do a very quick single volume adjustment, it resists it a little bit. If I'm using 2 fingers, it's not a problem at all. So it's more of a speed versus preference thing. I just wanted to point that out. Even the microphone has a metal hinge, which is awesome. And in addition to that, this has the same kind of smooth tactility to it. So like the telescoping yoke has good resistance. It feels kind of strong, but buttery smooth. The volume wheel, pretty strong, buttery smooth. Microphone mute, pretty decent amount of resistance to it, but again, very smooth. It's also detachable, and some headsets that use a detachable mic have a really small notch to keep it from turning in and out. This notch is a little bit bigger and more robust, and again, with that metal hinge, this just feels like a tank. This is, of course, adjustable because it has like a rubber boom, so you can kind of kick it in closer to your mouth depending on your head shape and where your mouth is. But you just plug that in and it feels so secure and solid. Even the buttons feel very high quality, and if I start by pressing in this little power button here, we'll turn the headset on, and while the headset's on, if you tap this button, the green indicates that it has at least 50% battery life, orange is 15 to 50, and then if it's red, that means you have less than 15% battery life left. So I love that little hidden detail. Here's the switch I was talking about for 2.4 mode versus Bluetooth. So if you want to switch to Bluetooth mode, you just slide it up. The color of the headset will change to indicate you're in Bluetooth mode, and if you want to put it in pairing mode, you can press up and hold. Then this will start blinking very quickly and you'll be in Bluetooth mode. You also have a microphone mute button here, which works on both the flip to mute mic, and if you remove this microphone, there is an internal microphone as well. So if you're planning on using this headset on the go, if you're traveling, there's no active noise cancellation on this, so it's not going to be the best for loud planes. But if you don't need extreme noise cancellation, or if you're on a more limited budget and you want something that's good for $200, the internal microphone is quite passable, and you have this button to at least mute yourself. Now, even though you have a flip to mute microphone with this, if the microphone is down, you can still use that button to quickly mute and unmute, or use the flip to mute mic to do that instead. So you have the volume wheel. I already mentioned that earlier. I think the placement is nice, and once you get used to it, it's pretty easy to kind of figure out what's what. The right side has an RGB button, so you can quickly turn it off. Maybe you don't want RGB on when you're in public, or you just want to extend your battery life. Then you have this button here, which toggles between 3 different EQ profiles, which are all individually customizable, and that's awesome. And that does apply towards your Bluetooth connection as well, which is another huge benefit. So if you are using this on the go and you have your own sound profile preferences, you can take advantage of that for mobile use as well. As far as comfort goes, this headset weighed 337 grams on my scale with the microphone, and the clamp force is a little bit on the heavier side. It's close to 600 grams, which when you compare it to some competitors is higher than a chunk of them. Thankfully, some of that clamp force is offset by the pads, which are much thicker and more robust than some other headsets in this price. So that helps kind of spread the load out. It's still squeezing your head a little bit more firm, but it's not feeling any significant pressure points because these have so much give and flexibility to them. I also like the fabric choice here. You can see how compliant it is. It's super soft, squishy memory foam, and this is kind of a really nice textile fabric that perfectly matches the headband material. So this fabric doesn't lock in the sound as much as the leatherette headsets out there. So the HyperX Cloud 3 Wireless or the Logitech G Pro X2, they're going to do a better job at blocking a lot of your environmental sounds out, a little bit better than this. However, I find the isolation of this to be on par, if not slightly better than what I got with the SteelSeries Nova 7, partly because those pads are a little bit smaller as well. I didn't quite get the same seal performance that this one gave me. The ear pad dimensions are really nice on this headset as well. It's comparable to some of the best sized headsets in this price range in terms of height and width, and the depth of the pads are class leading, or at least up there with some of the best as well. So it has really good ear clearance. Depending on your head size, there's good versatility with the Scape as well. Now this adjustment mechanism, I mentioned it before, it's very smooth, but it is a little bit stiff. So when you're first putting it on, you have to do a little bit of work to kind of get it, in place to what you want to dial it in for. So the advantage of being stiffer though is once you've kind of formed it to fit the shape and size of your head, this is less likely to adjust on its own over time. And I feel like they kind of had to go with a stiffer, adjustment mechanism because you're putting it on this dock and lifting it on and off once in a while. If it was a really weak mechanism, this would likely adjust every time you're doing that. So thankfully it's stiff enough to where this stays the way it is, even if I'm handling the dock repeatedly every single day. Ear pad articulation isn't bad. It's a limited range of adjustment, but it's enough to always conform to your head. Because of the way this moves, you basically have a diagonal articulation. So I have a little bit of rotation, and in doing so, I also get just a little bit of tilt. So I never had an issue with this putting any pressure on one particular part of my head. I can't guarantee that for everybody, but it felt more than flexible enough for me. And thanks again to the pads being as thick as they are, that should help offset any stronger pressure from top to bottom of your ear as well. Now for long-term comfort and actually gaming on them every day, I find the comfort just okay. The clamp force is what it is. There's no getting around that. The ear pads help a lot, and the fact that they went with a textile fabric material means it's not building up sweat. This is also a significantly more durable material than the leatherette stuff out there, so this is going to last a significantly longer period of time, which is good. I was also surprised by the glasses comfort. I thought a slightly stronger clamp would be an issue for glasses, and because these pads are so soft and compliant, I tried 3 different glasses frames on this. I used the Gunnar blue light blocking glasses. No discomfort there, and I wore them for hours at a time. Now, I typically only game for 1 or 2 hours at a time before I take breaks, and I recommend that for everybody out there. Even if you're younger and you can sit for a long period of time, take a break every hour or two. Get some water, get a snack, whatever you have to do, but don't just sit there for hours on end. And when you're doing those breaks, I typically take my headset off. I can easily get to those break intervals without any significant comfort issues. If I was looking for endurance comfort to wear for 5 to 6 hours the entire time without ever taking them off, this comfort isn't going to be as good for me. I would prefer to use the Nova 7 with upgraded pads because the stock pads are a little too small, or the Turtle Beach Elite Atlas, or the Atlas Air, I should say, their new open back headset that came out last year. There are other headsets, just to cut it short, that will be more comfortable for much longer periods of time, but for how I typically wear it, this has been okay for me. It's kind of in the middle of the road for comfort. And this is what my voice sounds like on the Fractal Scape microphone. And the microphone's just okay. It's not a class-leading mic by any means. I think it's mid-tier, maybe at best. Now, I have microphone noise cancellation enabled in the Fractal software suite, like their web customization tool to change the sound. So the noise cancellation is okay. I don't think it made a big enough difference on or off when I was using the boom mic. I brought out a FIO KB3 keyboard with the stock yellow switches just so you can hear a quick typing test. And that's what it sounds like with MNC on. And this is what I sound like with MNC disable, which has a very similar tone and compression to it. It lets in just a little bit more noise. So if I start typing on this again, obviously I'm typing for more dramatic effect, but now you can hear the difference with that on or off. And now I'm talking to you on the Scape internal microphone, again using that same 2.4 gigahertz connection, and I have MNC disabled still, just for apples to apples. So I'm going to type on this keyboard again. You could clearly hear a lot more noise with MNC off. Thankfully, with MNC enabled, it does a better job on the internal mic, because to me, I would always leave MNC on if we're using the internal mic. It's not enough of a downgrade in sound quality to justify ever leaving it off, but you get the benefit of having more noise isolation. So it sounds a little bit cleaner and there's less background noise. And if I type, you still get a lot of this. It's just not as bad. And just in case you want to hear what the internal microphone sounds like with a Bluetooth connection to a cell phone, I'm connected to my iPhone right now, and this is what my voice sounds like using Bluetooth. Now, just in case you are chasing slightly better sound quality on the microphone, you can use the USB-C connection, which obviously has less processing because I'm not using the transmitter for signal compression. It sounds better here. Now, this opens up another discussion on microphone side tone, because you can enable side tone on this mic, but I've already provided feedback. Again, I got this prior to public launch. I'm using the day one firmware. Hopefully this gets fixed, but the firmware in its current state has a very quiet side tone. It's not super clear and it's a little bit robotic sounding. And for some reason, that is more noticeable when I'm using a USB connection to my Mac. It didn't have this issue on Windows. It's kind of an exclusive issue I had just on my Mac laptop. But I don't want to hide anything I'm observing. So if you are very keen on having a very open and loud side tone, this isn't really the best headset for now in its current state. If that gets fixed with a firmware change later, so be it. But you can hear a noticeable improvement in clarity when I'm using the USB cable instead. So during the mic portion, I mentioned that you can use the web utility to customize the headset. And this is a game-changing feature. Basically, Fractal's doing to the headset space what a lot of computer keyboard enthusiasts have been getting, by having the ability to go to a web page to customize your device without having to install any software. This is a massive feature to me that I hope a lot of other brands start to embrace. at least as an option, because it's so much lighter on system resources. So all I have to do is go to adjust.fractal-design, and it presents you with this page. And to connect to the headset, I just click the plus sign here, and there it is. It's just the same kind of prompt that if you're used to VIA for customizing keyboards, it's the same idea with this headset. So I'm going to click connect. And just like that, I have the headset shown up. So once you've connected, you can see that I have a few options here. And I obviously zoomed in a little bit because I wanted to make sure the font was readable in case you're a mobile user. So we have lighting and audio. And I clicked factory reset before, and it works fine. It takes only like 1 or 2 minutes tops, maybe even 30 seconds to fully factory reset the headset. It felt super quick. But if I click on lighting, I can customize the RGB of this headset as well. It's not just on or off or brightness. You can see there's a variety of themes here. There's 10 different ones you can choose from. And it doesn't take long to cycle between each one. If I had to guess, maybe 10 seconds or so tops. That felt like 5 to me, but it's always hard to tell when you're on camera. So you have the preset ones. Now, if I go to custom lighting, I can actually do my own. And if you click the drop down once a certain theme is enabled, you can have additional presets for that particular style. So if you want a 2-color fade, you can choose between several different themes here. Now, in addition to that, I can click the little icon on the right-hand side here and pick what one color is and the next color. So if I want to do like the traditional pink and blue and adjust my speed, for example, I'm going to hit save. We'll do GT video because we are doing this live just to show you how painless this is. It's saving it, and now the headset is going to adjust. And let's see how quickly this takes because it's custom. Maybe it's a little longer. And you can see clearly it's working absolutely fine. So I'm pretty excited about that. That makes it pretty easy. And again, you don't have to use RGB. You can press the button to turn it off on the headset or use off on this icon up here on the screen. You can also go to Windows Advanced Settings, or I should just say the Advanced Settings tab, because this supports Windows Dynamic Lighting, or WDL, which bypasses any of the web-based management. And if Windows is wanting to make everything orange, then this will light up in orange, just to kind of paint this simple picture. So we're going to go focus on the audio section now. When we look at the audio page, there's a few things I really like. One, it's a super simple UI, but you get 3 profiles. I mentioned you can toggle between them by clicking the button on the headset. You can customize each profile individually. Now, I did something intentional here. I customized this on my Windows computer. Obviously, we're doing this on the Mac in real time. The default profiles you have are balanced, clarity, and depth, and it's presented as 1, 2, 3 in that order. So I didn't touch balance. I just wanted to show you that their balanced is the stock tuning. It's with no changes on the headset itself. Clarity is going to lift the mid-range and treble a little bit. That's because the software allows you to also do a high shelf, which allows you to adjust a huge range of the bass and or treble as a whole. That's because you can add up to 5 points of custom EQ. So there's only 3 here now. So I can hit a plus here, and I can hit a plus here. And then you notice I can't add any more pluses. That's where I'm capped at. As far as what you can adjust, if I'm in peaking EQ, I can go as wide as a 0.5 EQ and as narrow as a 10 EQ. EQ and understanding what this can do is a whole different discussion. I actually make a video on this just to help with a reference guide to understand what these numbers mean. And I'll have a link in the description for that in case you want to learn how to properly tune this to your own personal preference. But as far as the Q factor goes, 0.5 or 0.5 up to 10. You can adjust the decibel swing of -10 to +10 dB. So you have plenty of adjustment here. Yeah, it would have been cool to have 10 bands, but 5 bands of parametric EQ with something that has a good sound signature out of the box is pretty easy to work with. So when we click on the third preset, which obviously I didn't want to save these changes, so I'm going to hit reset. And you notice there's a little code here that's changing. If I go to the third profile, this is a profile I saved and created on my desktop. It's a very focused tune that is designed to kind of do like a Harman compliant tuning with some of my own personal preferences in it. I love the way this headset sounds, which is going to lead me into sound quality in a moment. But this long code, it's actually longer than what you can see. So all you have to do is hit click and copy if you're trying to share it with someone. Let's say you and your friend both bought a Scape and you spent time tuning it and you liked it. Send this code to your friend. It's just a basic text, letter only code. If you're using mine, paste the code that I have in this video description, click that, hit copy, go to your parametric EQ here on the web page, click this box so it looks like everything's highlighted, and just click paste. And in doing so, it's going to import this. And then once you've done that, you can save it to any profile you want. And again, this also affects Bluetooth performance as well, or Bluetooth listening, which is huge. Lastly, on the note of the microphone, I mentioned having these settings adjusted before. The microphone side tone 0 to 100 really didn't matter. I can't hear it that well, but maybe this will improve over time. Microphone noise cancellation, or MNC, you can see on and off, and that's self-explanatory, as is the test microphone. So no microphone equalizer settings to change your tone, but at least it gives you something. Now I have a rig that can measure the frequency response of this headset, both in its stock configuration and then also for validation with my EQ settings. It's a Graz KB006X Pinaclone with a IEC711 coupler. I always say that just so I'm transparent, but you don't have to know what that means. Just know that it's a way of simulating hearing, and I've measured almost 200 headsets and headphones now, both gaming and audiophile stuff. So I'll have a link in the description below if you want to compare frequency responses of my measurements, not directly comparable to others. But now that I've said that, this is the frequency response of the Fractal Scape in its default setting without doing any EQ. This is basically an exaggerated Harman tuning. It has elevated sub-bass, a scoop mid-range, and elevated upper mid-range and treble, aka a V-shape. This is an unapologetically V-shaped headset, but not so bad that there's any sharp sibilance issues. There's no extreme fatiguing or problematic areas. It's just designed to be a V-shape, rather exciting sounding headset in general. I actually like a lot of what they did here, because a lot of gaming headsets typically have a ton of mid-bass, and it can sound muddy and bloated, or honestly just doesn't sound clear, and that's not the case with the Scape. Even just focusing on the measurement side, I really like the way it's tuned. However, it's not perfect, and if I'm using it for music, I would rather make my own changes. So my EQ changes fills in this recess in the mid-range so vocals don't sound as thin. I table off some of this upper mid-range at 2900 hertz a little bit. I just pull it down so vocals don't come across as bright or forward sounding. I just want it to be a more enjoyable, versatile listen regardless of what music I was listening to. And once I did this EQ, I was happy both for gaming, music, and movies. Then you can customize it further to your own personal preference, but there's a ton of potential with this headset. Just in case you are curious, I did measure the clarity preset, which basically just reduces bass and lifts the highs just a little bit. So naturally it's going to sound a little bit brighter. Then if I turn that one off and I go to the depth preset, you can see the depth is pretty self-explanatory as well. It just has more bass. I actually think the depth preset is the best of the three out of the box, because I think it benefits by having a little bit more bass to kind of better keep up and balance out some of the elevated mids and treble. So when you do my EQ though, I think it's even better because I keep some of that bass shelf, and then to me, I just think it sounds more natural. Now, because this headset is still under embargo at the time of filming this, I haven't uploaded these publicly yet. It will be live by the time this review gets published. However, I can't easily show you left and right channel balance. You will soon see that the channel balance is excellent in the mid to higher frequencies. There's a little bit of a variance on my unit in the bass, but we're only talking a couple dBs, and the left side just has slightly more bass. It doesn't affect directionality or imaging. The imaging of this headset is fantastic, but I just wanted to disclose that in case you're curious about that as well. So moving past the measurements and getting into subjective quality of what I hear, what I like or dislike. Just at a super high level, this comes across as a leaner, brighter, more detailed sounding headset than most headsets under $200. It's a really good, like, reference grade sounding headset. The bass is a little bit leaner. There's no getting around that. If you're chasing a ton of bass, then that's where like the Black Shark and the Steel Series and Turtle Beach headsets start to come in. But when you start listening to a ton of different gaming headsets out there, you start building a picture of what you expect a gaming headset to sound like. Usually thicker bass, not as clear. And when you talk to audiophiles, a lot of audiophiles are going to recommend a good open back because things sound more natural, more detailed, etc. This is where the Scape starts to exceed what the measurements can suggest. Basically, it's not just bass, mid-range, and treble tuning, it's hearing the subtle nuances and details of everything you're listening to. This affects games, music, and movies. Anything that you hear with audio, there's a noise floor issue where it gets below a certain threshold and you just don't hear it, but there's also the ability of a driver to replicate even the faintest, most subtle audio cues. This could be a byproduct of them using a higher quality driver material than what you typically see on other gaming headsets in this price range, but what was immediately apparent with this is it didn't sound like a typical closed-back gaming headset. I got so much more subtle detail retrieval, even better than a lot of $300 plus gaming headsets. It really punches so far above its weight on detail retrieval, it's just exceptional. Now, this is not a bass head headset. If you're chasing gobs of bass, look at the Astro A50X and EQ up the bass, or the Logitech G Pro X2, or the Odyssey Maxwell. Those things pound. This has a slightly more neutral approach, but it does handle a bit of a bass shelf, so you can still get plenty of bass. I still found I got more than I wanted to, so it can definitely do that. But the other thing is, when you have a closeback, there's a wall behind the driver, and dealing with those reflections usually requires some kind of dampening material, different shapes inside, and it's almost like an echo chamber. And cheaper gaming headsets don't always navigate this well because of costs. You know, they just put a plastic cover behind the driver, so it's the same on both sides, and they run with it. And if you're really tuned into the way audio sounds on like an audiophile product, you can hear that super fast. That's why a lot of closebacks frankly suck. And this doesn't have a lot of those negative byproducts of a closeback. I didn't take this apart. I didn't want to risk damaging anything. Maybe I'll do a follow-up where I disassemble this, but it does not sound like a wall is right behind the driver. Its stage is super wide. I get all these really good detail retrieval, and it doesn't have any kind of a weird echo or reverb effect either. This is one of the best performing closeback gaming headsets I've ever used on the sound quality department, and a lot of that has to do with how they tuned what's happening behind the driver more than just the frequency response itself. So when you add my custom EQ and you kind of bring it more in line with what I think is a more enjoyable sound signature for my personal preferences, I was just blown away by this. It really has turned into an amazing headset for that. Now, as a result, because it has all these little things going for it, I didn't find the need to do a bunch of different EQ profiles. I can run with my main one, and I would play first-person shooter, go to immersive gaming, go to racing games, because I've been getting more into the sim racing side, and then I can just go put on a movie as well, and that same sound signature was just working wonderfully for all of it. And then when I was doing critical listening on my music player, I switched to Roon recently, which has been really fun to dial in some stuff. But that's a whole nother discussion. What I'm getting at is you don't have to buy multiple products to get everything you're looking for, and there only are a few products out there under a few $100s that give you like a truly universal listening experience. The Odyssey Maxwell has always been one of them. I think Astro has some potential there. It doesn't sound as detailed as this on subtle details, but it has a little bit more bass, and the microphone of that is insane. This is sacrificing a little bit on the comfort side and the microphone performance, but it's giving you the closest thing I've heard to an Odyssey Maxwell in terms of overall sound quality once you've done EQ to customize it. That says a lot about this because there's so many good gaming headsets out there. So if you cannot tell, I really love this Fractal Scape. Honestly, it's been damn near perfect. I had one time where SteelSeries sonar prevented the mic from working, and I had to reboot my computer, unplug this, and do all kinds of resets. Then the mic started working again. That was only when I started using sonar for game to chat mix, which leads me to a couple of the downsides. So I believe in honesty and transparency, and where this excels at, aside from the design, which is personal preference, build quality is exceptional, sound quality is exceptional, especially with EQ. It's let down a little bit by the stronger clamp. That might be an issue for some. Lack of simultaneous Bluetooth, no game to chat mix, and the microphone performance is just okay. So when you're at a $200 price range, there's always sacrifices that have to be made. You have to choose where you want your money to go. And if it's purely for sound quality and build quality, well, the Scape is like the highest bar you can have right now at this price. If it's jack of all trades, there are going to be other headsets that do a better job balancing it at the sacrifice of some of the sound and build quality. So I will be doing a roundup video. It's never my goal to confuse you, just to provide all the strengths and weaknesses so you can pick what's best for you. And for what I typically like, and when I use a gaming headset, the microphone quality isn't as important for me, and I use software-based game to chat mix to bypass a lot of the limitations I've had on certain gaming headsets. So because of that, I've just thoroughly enjoyed using the Scape. It's been wonderful for me. I love the design aesthetic. It looks so good on my desk, having a single cord that can tuck away so you don't even see a wire. Just an exceptional experience. So with that all being said, I hope you found this video helpful. I really do. And if you did, great. Like and subscribe. I'd love to see it in some future videos. Otherwise, shoot me a comment below. Let me know what else you were looking for information so I can answer that when I do my roundup video of this to some other headsets in this price. Otherwise, thank you again so much for watching. Stay safe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.